I'm Bob. I like coffee. I also like to tell stories. So here at the Bobcast Coffee, it's time for a coffee break. So take a coffee break with me and pour yourself a cup of your favorite Joe. By the time you're done with your coffee, you'll know something about me you really didn't need to know. But you'll have fun learning it. Just remember, my stories are true. For the most part.
This episode was brought to you by JM Insurance. JM Insurance. Do you have business, personal, or life insurance yet? Contact JM Insurance Agency to understand the benefits of insuring against the unforeseen circumstances of life. We have over 40 years of experience in the business and will guide with the best probable choice for your situation. Call us for more information at 405-353-0140 or visit our website at jminsurance.agency.
All right, today I'm enjoying my coffee out of a Buc-ee's mug. I think I've shown you this once before. Buc-ee's, big convenience store, gas station, travel stop all through Texas. And it holds coffee well. Love that coffee. All right, so for this coffee break, we're into, I believe, episode 55. And I wanted to talk to you about not just Bob as a professional painter, because I have held many careers, but more importantly, Bob's professional ladder that he used for painting, which in itself was not. We bought this ladder. I believe we bought this ladder out in California. And it's just a big, heavy-duty extension ladder, A-frame ladder. It folds up. It does all sorts of stuff. And it's handy. And you see ads for ladders like this on TV. And, you know, the cool thing about it is they're multiply versatile. They can shape in different ways, get you in places that are hard to get to. And yes, our ladder does, but we did not spend the money on this ladder that you would have spent if you bought the one on TV. And so what makes the difference? Well, the ones on TV are very lightweight. And you can move them around real easy, and they don't, they're not frustrating when you're trying to store them and pack them and stuff like that. And that's not our ladder. Our ladder is extremely heavy. And, even though, you can pick it up easy, it's heavy. So, if you pick it up with your shoulder, cuts in on the shoulder. If you try to carry it like you'd think, just carry a ladder, it's awkward and the weight's not centered right. So it becomes kind of unless you're standing on it, it's a pain in the butt to use. But when you stand on it, it's solid. It makes you you feel very safe on this ladder. And you can get all the way up to the top and step over, since it steps on both sides. A lot of times I would paint going up this side of the ladder, and then I'd step over and be able to reach out and paint down the other side. It was very handy in that. Just moving it 4 feet to get into a new spot was not fun. But hey, it was my ladder. It was a ladder before I became a painter, and I still own that ladder today. And the important thing to remember is that when anybody used my ladder, they went up on that ladder, they said, "This is a great ladder." And then they would go to move it and they'd go, "This ladder's heavy." Well, I used that ladder when I started painting. I used that ladder. We had an old Astro van, and I turned that into my painting van. And I could load all my stuff up, drive out to whatever job site the company had for me, and I'd do painting. We did a lot of industrial painting. We weren't like house painters. We did businesses and offices and all these different OG&E plants, things like that. Well, there was an OG&E plant, not a plant, it was an office building down by Norman, and we were working in it. And, as painters, we come in toward the end of the painting cycle. And in this particular situation, they were pushing, instead of, the framers come in, the drywallers come in, then the painters come in, throwing in electrical and plumbing in between all of that. Instead of doing that, they had the whole building set off to where you would have the framers still working in one section while the drywallers were working where the framers just left, and over here the painters were already throwing in first coats. So there was all the crews in there, which was kind of interesting and kind of fun, but made it noisy and crowded, and you had to be careful. So everybody have job boxes. We have a job box, and you throw all your tools in there at night, and you can lock it down with big old super locks. Everybody had them chained to walls, or they're just huge, so you don't push those around very easy. Bob throws all his painting equipment, my personal stuff, into my bucket. I grab my ladder, and I go out to the van. I put everything in the van, and I go home. Next day, I come back out. I've got all my tools, grab my ladder, go back in, and start going again. Well, one particular day, we got there, and we were upstairs and at the far end of the building, and you lug your ladder and all your tools up there, you set it up, and I worked a little late, and I'm just like, I am exhausted. And I cut a corner. I grabbed my tools, threw all my paintbrushes and tape and all that other stuff into my bucket. And then I went to the car, and I put my bucket in the van, and I went home. I did not take my ladder home. I just left it sitting there, A-framed, up against one of the walls that I was working on, and I was just going to come back and get right back into it. But I was just so tired, I did not want to lug that heavy thing across the building, down the stairs, and out to the parking lot. Next day, I get there, and instead of, the different trades going off to their different spots, everybody was congregated at the front door, or right inside the front door in that little lobby area. And I come, walking up, and there's some of my painter buddies that I work with, and there's plumbers and electricians and framers, and everybody's there, and they're having like this meeting. Sometime during the night, somebody broke into the building and basically stole all the contractor tools. Everything. If it wasn't nailed down or chained up, it was gone. And I'm standing there at the door just as you walk in, because I can't get in any further because, it's just everybody's there. And the lead contractor guy is trying to explain what happened and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, well, crap. The one night I am so tired, and I just didn't want to lug that heavy ladder back out to the van. That's the night that someone comes in and steals all our stuff. All right. And I'm just, I'm kind of frustrated with myself because of this, I never, ever leave any of my tools on a job site. And I'm just like, well, this really stinks. And I'm leaning there against the door frame, listening to everybody complain. And I'm like, well, now what am I going to do without my ladder? And I look over like this. Right next to me, leaned up against the door jamb of the door that I'm leaned on, is my ladder. And it appears that someone, while they were going through stealing everything, found my ladder and said, hey, this looks like a great ladder. And they collapsed it all down, they folded it up, and they carried it. And by the time they got down the stairs and they were about to go out the building, they said, this thing is too damn heavy, and they left it up against the wall. So where everybody else had things stolen, the one thing I had was just too darn heavy and no one wanted to deal with. So I quietly, while everybody was complaining that they had lost all their tools and all their stuff, I quietly grabbed my bucket that I had from the van, put my arm into my ladder, picked it up, and I quietly skirted the edge of the crowd, got to the stairwell, and I went upstairs and started working. So sometimes it's good to have the heaviest tool. The sad part of the story is that there was we're just north of Norman. So if you know anything about Oklahoma, or you can read a map, just north of Norman is a town called Moore. And everybody in the world should know Moore, Oklahoma, because if there's a tornado, it's in Moore. For some reason, Moore is the tornado magnet, and all tornadoes that hit the state just seem to be drawn to Moore. This is probably a month later. All the trades are out of the building. Really, all that's left is a few electrical contractors, cleaning up and making sure all the switches work and all that. And Bob. One of my jobs as a painter was the punch list. So after we're finished, all the paint's done, all the trades start to move out, they go through and they take a look at what's still wrong. And usually it's scrapes on the wall, or a hole behind a toilet where a plumber needed to get, and they punched a hole in the wall, and now there's a hole there. Well, the plumber doesn't fix that. The guy doing the punch list does. So when I'm there, I have a bucket of all the color of paint that is used on this site. I have a whole stack of brushes. I usually carry chunks, of drywall that I could cut into patches and patch, and a little bit of mud. And I get a list of all the things that are wrong. And I'm going around this entire site with my ladder, and I'm reading the punch list. I go to whatever room that is. I find it. Oh, it's a scrape right there. I take a little bit of paint. Fixed. Check it off. And I move on to the next. And this is what I'm doing all day. And late in the afternoon, the lead contractor guy comes through the building, and it tells everybody just to put down everything you have and leave. Well, I'm a painter. I've got paint in all my brushes. I've got cans of paint open. I've got a little cart that I'm pushing things around, and I'm carrying my ladder. I said, I'm not going to do that. He goes, yes, you need to leave right now. And I go, well, let me shut these. He goes, no, get out. What is so important? He goes, there's a tornado about 2 minutes from here heading straight this way. Okay. Well, I did throw the lids on my paint, left the cart, did not leave my ladder. Grabbed my ladder, all my paint brushes I threw into a bucket, and I went out to the car. I threw everything in, threw my bucket in the back, or in the back of the van, threw my ladder there, went around to the driver's side and said, I can't believe that there's a tornado. Oh, there it is. Wow. That's a tornado. Got in my van, drove home. Tornadoes travel, and as long as you go in right angles, you can usually get away from them pretty easy, and I did get away from this one very easy. So I get home, And the next day, I call into work. I'm heading back to finish the punch list. They said, don't worry about the punch list. And I say, well, why not? And he goes, well, the tornado hit the building, the OG&E building that we were working on, tore off the roof, destroyed all the work that was in there, and they've got crews coming in to clear away all the mess, and they're starting from scratch. So we were there for like another 3 months, 4 months in that building, repainting the entire thing as soon as the other contractors had replaced walls and stuff like that. It was pretty cool gig. I mean, it was a neat building. I'm sorry to see that it got so destroyed a second time. Outside of that, though, hang on to your ladder. You never know when you're going to need it. Me, I still have that ladder, and we still use it. So, bizarre story, small story, a lot of fun though. Just another thing that Bob has done in his life, and that was 3.5 years professional painter. Enjoy your coffee. Have a great night.